Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. And today I'd like to welcome Alexia Clonda to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. Alex is a former world-class squash athlete, high-performance coach, and speaker whose story is rooted in overcoming severe asthma and other health challenges to succeed at the highest level of sport. She now helps others use breath, mindset, and practical performance tools to help build resilience, stay calm under pressure, and bring out their best. Welcome to the show, Alex.
So glad to be here, Dana. Very nice.
So for people who don't know you or are meeting you for the first time, who are you? What do you do? I know I gave a little bit away, but you know.
Yeah. Who was I? I've had many identities. A former world-class athlete, now a high-performance squash coach. I've been in corporate world. I've done quite a few things, but what really excites me is helping people help themselves to be the best version of themselves. And through my own adversity, my own health issues and my personal journey, I think through those lived experiences, I've got some tools and resources to help people navigate what they're going through or what they would like to achieve or overcome or move through in their lives.
And how do you do that?
Questions. Observe them. I ask them, well, what is up with you? Like, it's a series of questions. I want to know who they are, where they've been, where they're at now, and where they want to go. And what do they think that is holding them back? What are their blocks? Because it's really funny, when you speak to people, they're actually giving you a lot of answers. They know the answers, but sometimes they need someone to ask those appropriate questions so they tap into those answers that are in there. And that's, I think a lot of us forget to do that. Because a lot of us it's, I think, natural. We've got a negative bias. Our brain is geared for negativity. So we forget that we do have the solutions, and we are geared to focus on problem. And neuroscience now knows what you focus on expands. Where your focus goes, your energy goes. Where your energy goes, your focus goes. So when you're focusing on a problem, you can't see solutions. You're not allowing solutions to come in. So when you open up your mind and ask yourself, well, what if I did know the solution? What if there was a solution? So now you're shifting your focus and you're asking your subconscious mind, not the conscious, but the subconscious that runs us, that keeps us alive, that keeps us safe. You're asking that subconscious, which I believe is a divine intelligence connected to that infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. You're actually asking through that question. You've made an assumption, there's an answer, and now you've sent out your subconscious to bring you an answer. That's opening up your mind to there is solution. Now, might not know it yet, but it's coming to me. And the more you can repeat that, it's like you're playing your sport, okay? Me, squash player, getting that forehand drive well 100 times, 200 times. That's how I get better. So that constant good repetition, asking yourself those kinds of questions. We learn by repetition. Repeating it over and over and over again, that's how we shift things.
Let me ask you a question. Why is it easier for us to do something physically? Like you said, like your forehand. For me, it could be batting or, whatever I was doing, throwing a runner out at second base or something. Why is it easy for athletes to do things physically, but not easy for us to do the repetition mentally?
We're taught it. It's easy to monkey see, monkey do, copy. Humans learn by copying, but we don't copy someone's mental because it's unseen. It's an energy. It's unseen. But to do something physically, it's so easy. We just copy it. Really easy skill. But the mental, because there's so much, there's so many different levels of mental and emotional, and then energetically as well. We don't know, we've not been taught how to navigate that. We've learnt it by being programmed when we're younger. Between the ages of 2 to 7, we're in a theta brainwave, the programming brainwave. So we're looking at the outside world through our eyes, listening with our ears, we're copying, and our brain or our subconscious, it's like a sponge. So it's just learning. Again, we're learning on all those different levels. So we're picking up our parents' beliefs, our siblings' beliefs, we're picking up programs that aren't ours. So they're instilled in us, and when we haven't got an instruction book to tell us how to navigate through those, where, oh, that's not so good for us. No, this is a good one for me. We're not learned how to use it. And that's why I think it's so easy to pick up something physically. And we don't have to think about it. It just becomes an auto. But with mental, we have to think, well, and then the question is this hindering me? Is this helping me? What do I need to do to shift this to get a different outcome? And these are the things I ask my clients to do, whether they be a sports person or a business person or whatever, is you need to ask yourself some really appropriate, good quality questions to shift things, to shift your thinking. Einstein, the same thinking that created the problem isn't the same thinking that's going to resolve the problem.
No kidding.
Yeah.
For sure. So you started off, you said at an early age you had severe asthma,
Well,
and that is kind of what drove you toward understanding breath a little bit better. Would you be willing to share your story?
absolutely, because it's key to why I do what I do. I was diagnosed with asthma and a heart murmur when I was 10 months. So way before I could even talk. So, and here I'm going along in life, hating to do anything physical because it hurt me physically. I couldn't breathe. And then I felt sick all the time. And then I used to get my mother to write me notes to get out of school sport, what do you call the middle school and high school. Detentions were just piling up. Literally, oh, no, I don't want to do this. But the only thing I liked doing was a bat and ball game. In Australia, it was cricket. So bat and ball. But I didn't like the running. And then at 13, a friend said to me, oh, I'm going to go to the squash court. I went, what's that? So I went along and again, bat and ball, I liked it, or racket and ball. And the coach saw me and he goes, you've got some really good hand-eye. Excuse the pun, if you live, breathe and eat squash, I'll help you become a world champion. He planted a seed and that was it. The asthma got worse. I had infections. Every single month I was on antibiotics. I can remember taking syrups, being sick, going to the doctor, having the sniffles. That was my life, being sick. Medication. Throughout my junior years, I started at 13, had the asthma, got the pneumonias, got the other things. And then within 4 years, though, because this coach was guiding me, my father had died when I was 14. I was from a family of 9. So I didn't have a male, that was my male role figure. My mum, left me to him to guide me. And within 4 years, I was world number 1 junior. 4 years. Unheard of. But I still had the asthma. I won the Australian Junior Championship under 19. And I really wanted to go to England to win the British Junior Championship, which is like the Wimbledon of squash. And my sponsor, Adidas, said, well done, here's the ticket. They gave me a ticket to go. Unheard of, because I was the very first squash player in Australia, junior squash player as well, to be sponsored by the 3 Stripes. That was my biggest dream then, 3 Stripes, to get into Adidas. And it had. Again, that's what I put out there, and that's what happened. Things fell into place. So I went to England by my lonesome just before Christmas as a 17-year-old. Didn't know anyone, but I went and played the British under 19. I won it, and everybody's going, oh, my goodness. I got really sick, though, because I went on that when I was there after that tournament, I went on and played a couple of senior tournaments, the World Open, the British Open, and I got really, really sick, and the asthma just became uncontrollable. I went home. I went straight into hospital. And for that year, my whole last year as a junior, I couldn't defend any of my titles because my asthma became uncontrollable. And then hospital, that's when they just hit me with the big drugs, the steroids in the vein, the big doses of the nebulizer and things like that. Within 6 months, I'd put on double my weight, and I'm a pretty slight person. I rolled everywhere. I got the typical steroid face.
Steroid bloat.
It was horrible. People were very nasty. Other than being fat, can't you give up your seat, on the bus? Can't you give up your seat? People were horrible. And I was crying inside. Literally, I think that's what asthma is, a lot of grief. But anyway, so 2 years I was struggling and the doctor said, okay, you've got to give up squash. It's going to kill you. And I did have exercise-induced asthma and every other type of asthma that there was, allergies, anything triggered me, emotions, whatever. And I was just classed, just went to number one. And the doctors say, you got to give up. But they were touting me as the next world champion. I went, no, 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 no. I'm just starting my career. I'm not going to accept that. So I made a decision. I am never, ever, ever going to let asthma beat me. I'm actually never going to let anything beat me. I will find a way. And that's what I did. Next 2 years I had to have off, but then I clawed my way back into training. It wasn't pleasant having all that weight and the struggles with the breathing, with the nebulizer. I was nebulizing every 4 hours, a lot of steroids every hour. Got back into it. That was in 1979, 80 I was out, 81 I got back into the senior or the open and I became top 8 in Australia. And that's when my open journey or my professional career started. I managed with the asthma. I had a case full of drugs to keep me going, to manage the asthma, and I just managed it. I just said, well, if this is how I've got to manage it, that's it. I'm going to do it. And I've always been, I think from the age of 5, I always knew I wanted to help people. I don't know why. I used to see people that like maybe disabled or crying even in the street. And I'd go, please, please help them, please. So I knew from a very early age I wanted to help people. At 10 years of age, I wanted to be a doctor. I thought that's a great way to help people. But when squash came along, that all went out the window. And then obviously wanting to really achieve in my field, I had to learn things to help myself, to help my attitude, to help me get through things. Then I really, 17, 19, when it really hit me, when the asthma really hit me, I have to do things for myself. I have to learn things. I have to find ways that I can help myself. And that's when the real journey started. So I went back and played professional squash, got to number 5 in the world, represented Australia at World Championships, semi-finalist, World Open, yada. And then I was in my 30s and the asthma, I couldn't control it anymore. I was nebulizing every hour. It got worse and worse. And this is how I used to breathe. It was horrible. It was, yeah. Talk about panic. I couldn't manage it. And that's when this breathing it was 1994. And I couldn't manage it. And the doctor was saying, we've just got to put you on more drugs. And I'm just going, no, I thought I was dying.
Yeah, you're drugged out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, on the TV, in the media, Australia we don't know why, has the highest incidence of asthma per capita in the world and has had for some time. So this, all over the media, was this breathing technique from Russia. What this cure of breathing, learn how to breathe properly, you can cure your asthma. Doctors are going, oh, don't be stupid. How can you can't control your breathing. They dismissed it. They were doing these free talks. I went along and I was sitting in the front row going, can't be this easy, can't be this easy, it's ridiculous. Anyway, my mum said, you're doing the course. You've got no option because you can't keep on taking all these drugs. I did the course. I did the breathing course for a week. It was an hour and a half a day for 5 days. The third day, things were shifting. I learned how to breathe properly through the nose, shut the mouth. One of my sayings is respectfully, shut your mouth, be a nose breather. I learned what proper breathing was and the effects it had on the body on every level. And that was in 1995. And I learned the technique. And then I've been teaching it for over 30 years before it became trendy. Within 6 months, was withdrawing off the drugs, withdrawing off the steroids, the oral steroids. The nebulizer use was becoming infrequent. I stopped getting infections. So it was my miracle. And I had a lot of radio interviews. I used to do a lot of promotional work for the Asthma Foundation in Australia, obviously being an elite athlete. At one stage, I was classified as the worst asthmatic elite athlete in Australia.
Wow.
The doctors at the Australian Institute of Sport went, we don't know how you do it, Clonda. We don't, because it doesn't compute that you can do what you do and still have this life-threatening, and you've got a lot of other respiratory issues, you know, surgical emphysema, ruptured lung, pneumonias, bronchiectasis. The list is quite substantial. And that's only the respiratory stuff, the heart attacks and the spinal fusion and the hip replacements and quite a few other things as well. But it was breathing and something so simple. And this is where I think a lot of people think it can't be. It's like any technique in sport. It's basic, simple. Keep it simple. It's pretty cool. Don't overcomplicate it. So we're going back to the basics, breath, the breath of life. The first thing we do when we enter this world and the last thing we do when we leave this world. But the medical industry really focuses on illness. It doesn't focus on the body being well. And so I've been on a journey for, 30 years now. What environment do we need to give our body so it can heal itself? And breathing, without a doubt. Breathing mindset, mind, brain and heart coherence, emotional regulation, nervous system regulation with breathing is going to help you on every level and in everything you do in your life. Health, everything. Your outlook on life, your energy, your experiences. This is what I learned. And I love helping people. To me, I've done a lot of asthma workshops. And why this breathing technique came out, why it's called the Potato breathing technique. Dr. Potato, or Professor Potato, said that pretty much, and this is what we're now learning. He said all those years ago in the early 90s, and he was doing it in the 80s, breathing, bad breathing, hidden hyperventilation, over-breathing affects you've got about 2,000 symptoms. He was saying it affects everything we do and every illness. And he wasn't wrong, because now the research is coming out, it affects everything. And people don't get it, that I'm teaching people not how to breathe for 10 minutes. We're doing exercises, yes. We're doing exercises a couple of times a day like we're training. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to retrain their breathing. We've got a breathing center in the stem of our brain. We're resetting the thermostat because it's out of whack. So what I do is I teach people how to breathe properly through their nose and only in and out through their nose, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 for however long they're on the planet. This is proper breathing for life, not 5 minutes. But these other techniques are great. They all have a place, but that's not life breathing for life, what you're doing every single day. It's like our thoughts every single day. We keep on repeating the crappy ones. Guess what? Crappy experiences. We keep on repeating the good thoughts. Guess what? Good experiences. And that's with your breathing. And I love helping people because my philosophy is pretty basic. I've experienced some pretty crappy stuff in my life with health and other things. I wouldn't want to wish it upon anyone, what I went through. So if I can help through my lived experiences, anyone to help circumnavigate that, take a shortcut, but still learn the lesson, that I believe is what I'm here for to do, not to be a good squash player. That was a vehicle to help me get my name out there, to help get that credibility. But what I'm really here for, I believe, is to help people how can help them help themselves to learn, to open up their mind, to expand their mind so they can have the best experience of life. That's what pretty much it's very, very simple for me. And that, to me, having an 80-year-old emphysemic come up to me and go, I could walk up the stairs without getting puffed. 88-year-old emphysemic, I could walk up the stairs. I could see the tears coming out of her eyes, and I just went, what can I say? Awesome. That to me is bigger than winning a championship, because a championship's only for me. It's only for me.
Well, and I know that in the chronic pain world, that that's probably one of the first things that gets away from us, but we don't know, because when you're in pain, you don't take deep breaths. Right? So you're only using, a third of your lung capacity as you're walking around. Mouth breathing becomes second nature, I think, for a lot of people, just because you're kind of like, clenching and doing whatever, and you're not really using your nose. So one of the first things when I was recovering and working on my recovery journey was going to the breath. And I used Wim Hof, and I found that the breath hold was actually very calming for me. On both sides, on the inhale and the exhale, because of the fact that I was never breathing completely. So all of a sudden I had to breathe all the way in, not just a little in, all the
Yeah.
way in.
Well,
And, I had to have sinus surgery because I did have some issues with my nose, and that probably, you know,
mm,
contributed to things earlier in my life because I had a deviated septum and I had, inflamed turbinates, and so there was not a lot of air getting through anyway. But with the combination of both of those things, my brain was so overloaded with information because I don't know if it ever saw that much oxygen in my lifetime up to that point. And it was funny because I remember being on the treadmill and walking, and I had to get off because I thought I was gonna pass out because I was seeing, there was just too much air. And I worked really hard on keeping my mouth shut, and I've noticed that it's helped dental-wise, not as much plaque. It has cut down on the amount of stuff that I catch because I'm also a high school teacher, so
yeah.
I'm exposed to a lot of funk
Mm,
and just that idea. But I still have issues because I have sleep apnea, so there is some of that time at night where I know my mouth does fall open, and so I have to wear a full face mask. But the difference is I notice in my nervous system and my ability to handle stress
yeah.
when I do take that moment and just concentrate on the breath and close my mouth is huge. I'm not a mouth taper because it's
Oh,
weird and
mm,
it can cause panic if you are somebody who's not. I can't imagine as an asthmatic I'd be okay with getting my mouth taped. So I'm not sure about other people, but for me it was like, this is a little too like I'm being held captive.
yes.
But just the idea of tongue placement and breathing appropriately through my nose, I noticed that my nervous system has kinda come down a notch, and the level of walking around anxiety is definitely a lot smaller.
Absolutely. You've hit all of those on the nail because the key to breathing, it's about the other gases that are involved, oxygen. It air has a combination of those gases. But what a lot of people forget, this is really basic respiratory 101. In the air, you've got CO2, which is not just a waste gas, it's a vital gas for life, for homeostasis. Okay. And we have to have a certain range in our body. CO2, and you've got nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. Nitric oxide comes into our body two ways: through the nose, through the breathing through the nose, or through food, trait-rich food. It's a vasodilator, so it's open up the blood vessels. The O2 comes along to the blood cell on the protein of the blood cell where the oxygen is sticking to. So the CO2 comes along. If you've got a low level of CO2, there's not enough a drive to release that oxygen fully from the blood cell or the protein of the blood cell. So you're not getting that full oxygenation. If you've got good levels of CO2, it can release all that oxygen, great oxygenation into those huge blood vessels. So it's going to everywhere. If you're an athlete, to your working muscles, your
Mhm.
brain. 25% of the body's oxygen needs the brain. Brain fog, no clarity, can't make good decisions because oxygen. And this is a key, and this is what people don't realize. It's oxygenation. You know, your diaphragm, it's a muscle. People bring into the upper lobe of their lungs, which is chest breathing, mouth breathing. Okay, you get very, very tired. You've got to breathe down into the lower lobes using your diaphragm, your breathing muscle, which is also into your intercostals as well. It goes into the lower lobes where oxygenation really takes place, where the gas exchange takes place. And that's why you're not getting enough air in, you're not getting enough oxygen because it's up in your upper chest. So it's like just hanging around there in dead space. Like, those extra calories you're taking on and you're not utilizing them, they just hang, don't they?
Mhm.
Same with the air. Okay. So this is why if you understand how the body operates and what it needs, work with the body, magic happens. I had to really relearn how to breathe. And during the first week of during the first couple of days of the course, I literally went out to lunch and went, how am I breathing? I completely had to throw out how I breathed and completely restart. And it is it's a technique. So this is a bad technique of how you're breathing. Now learning the good technique. So it becomes a pattern. It becomes a habit. It becomes your autopilot.
The athlete training.
Exactly. And look, I don't mind any other breathing techniques, but learning how to, again, this is where all these others, it's 24/7, and they forget about the CO2 has never been studied before like it's being studied now. Like nitric oxide, there are the two people that the two scientists that discovered the benefits of nitric oxide. Those two scientists in I think the mid-90s didn't find out the benefits of nitric oxide. They won the Nobel Peace Prize. And now with all this research, especially with COVID, we're now realizing that how we breathe is vital for your nervous system because CO2 is the regulator of your nervous system. Brain and heart coherence, you have a breathing rate. It needs to come down. When you're breathing at rest, when you're breathing about 5 to 6 breaths per minute, when you're resting, you are now bringing your brain and heart into coherence. Your nervous system is in parasympathetic mode, rest and relaxation. Not in the fight or flight. So again, when you're understanding your body and what it needs and you're working with it, so again, it's just learning that technique. Retraining the brain, you're also retraining your nervous system. You're actually bringing your heart into alignment, and you can slow down your heart rate with your breath.
Yeah.
When I say to squash players, I did this. Okay, hard rally. I've been sucking in the air, shut the mouth. Within about 10, 15 seconds, I'm calm. I've straight away switched back into this parasympathetic nervous system after a hard rally. And when you're playing sport, you do go into the fight or flight. You do need a little bit of that, for that adrenaline, but we need to learn how to manage it so we don't get lost and we go into that panic mode that, oh my God, I've lost that mode. You go into panic, you go into anxiety, and then you go into, oh my God, I've lost it. I've frozen. What do they call it? Sorry, what's that word? Oh, goodness. Frozen. God, it's got escaped me. I've just been reading about it. Yeah, you go into that freeze mode, There's a word for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and the more research is coming out, they were the potato practitioners that came to Australia. They were talking about this, and all the doctors were going, this is BS. I've been saying this for over 30 years now, and now the science is catching up because we've got the machinery, we're doing the research, people have started to open up their mind. Again, this opening up the mind. What if we did explore this? What if we looked at this? People, we're human, we're curious. Einstein, be curious. That's where you're going to learn. That's when you start asking the questions. So now the scientists starting to ask the questions. So it's really exciting times for me. As someone that's been doing this for over 30 years, it's exciting because I'm going to learn more as well so I can help more people. And given my lived experiences, I think, and I was talking to a ghostwriter because I'm writing my first solo book. They said to me, Alex, no one will believe what you've been through and still do what you do. And I said, well, it's possible because I've done it. And open up your mind to it is possible. No matter what you're going through, you can get through it. You've got to believe it's possible. Think if whoever is listening to this, if you're going through an issue, just close your eyes, slow down your breath, and just imagine that you've already moved on from it. You've gotten through whatever you're struggling through. What would that look like for you? How would that feel? Just imagine if it was possible. Imagine it. Your imagination is like unlimited. If you can imagine it and believe it, it can happen. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. What the mind can conceive, believe and feel, it can achieve. Miracles can happen. So whatever you're going through, whether it be a health issue, a financial issue, whatever, just what if it was resolved? How would that feel? Put your hand on your heart, breathing in and out through your nose, calm down. What would it feel like? What would it look like? What would it taste like? What would be going on around me if this was resolved? And just say this is resolved, because you're going to start you've asked your subconscious, your imagination to bring you stuff. It's really powerful. And using your breath to really relax into that. So you shut down this critical mind of yours, the conscious mind. Shh, just let me do this. Relax, chill, stop sending me down the rabbit hole of negativity.
I love that. So, Alex, if people want to work with you, where could they find you and learn more about what you're
Yeah,
doing?
yeah. info@alexiaclonda.com. Pretty easy.
That is very easy. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. And if you ever want to go further and explore really resolving or getting on top of that sleep apnea a bit more, only too happy to help.
I love it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ciao. Have a good one.